to the session 2 on our very first day of the South Asia Teaching English online conference. I am Udani, a freelance consultant with the British Council in Sri Lanka, and I'll be the host of this webinar. I hope some of you were able to join our panel discussion earlier, which was extremely interesting, and I'm welcoming all of you again, and thank you for tuning in. It's really wonderful to see so many of you joining us today from across South Asia and beyond. I can already see a lot of highs and hellos on the chat. And please let us know where you're from, and we'd love to hear from you. So today's session is being recorded and live streamed on the British Council Teaching English Asia Facebook page. Feel free to share the link with colleagues who can't make it onto the Zoom webinar. As part of our ongoing focus on inclusive practices in education, this webinar will explore the topic of dyslexia and inclusive language teaching. Before we begin, just a few quick housekeeping notes for everyone joining us today. Please use the chat for your comments and the Q&A box to ask any questions to our speakers. You'll receive an editable PDF certificate, and the link will be shared at the end in the chat and on Facebook. A recording of today's webinar will be posted on the Teaching English Asia Facebook page within 24 hours. Finally, we ask everyone to be respectful in the chat. Please keep your comments focused on the session and avoid sharing personal opinions, political views, or links to other products. Moderators may remove participants who disrupt the session. Thank you. We are so excited to get started, and I'm delighted to introduce our speaker for today, Dr. Bimali Indrarathne. Hi, Bimali. How are you?
Hi, Udani.
Hi.
I'm good, thank you, and hello to everyone.
All right. So before we get started, I would like to say a few words about Bimali. All right. Bimali is a teacher trainer and a teacher educator who works closely with learners and teachers who need, sorry. Sorry, Bimali. All right. So, and we would love to, I mean, more than me telling about it, would you like to do a small introduction about yourself, and then we'll move on to the next part of the session?
Okay, thank you very much, Udani. Hello to everyone who joined today with us, and thank you for joining, and thank you for joining this talk. Like Udani mentioned, my name is Bimali Indrarathne. I'm based in Sri Lanka. Currently, I work at Kotalawala Defence University as a professor in English language teaching. I worked in the UK as well in several universities before coming to Sri Lanka. I have run several teacher training programs in more than 13, 14 countries, mainly on the same topic, dyslexia and inclusive language teaching. So what I will share with you today is some of those details or some concerns, some aspects related to dyslexia and language teaching. So first of all, let me share the PowerPoint with you. I hope everyone can see my screen now, the PowerPoint. Udani, is it possible?
Yes, it's very clear, Bimali. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, right. So let's start, right? So the topic today is dyslexia and inclusive language teaching. Some of you may have already heard about dyslexia. Maybe there are some teacher trainers who have thorough knowledge of dyslexia, and there can be some people who who may have heard but do not know much about it. So what I will do today is give you a brief introduction to it, right? So we'll talk about dyslexia and how it affects language teaching. So these are the points that we are going to discuss in this webinar. So first of all, I'll briefly explain the features of dyslexia. Now, it's a very, very brief explanation because we have a short period of time. So I'll give only a very few features which are relevant to this talk, right? So some features of dyslexia. Then we'll mainly focus on vocabulary learning difficulties that learners with dyslexia face, because that's one of the main issues that they encounter. So we'll talk about it a bit more. And then I will also share some tips on how to teach vocabulary to learners with dyslexia. I'll show some sample activities that you can try out in your own contexts. And then finally, we will have we'll have a Q&A session as well. And before that, we'll talk about some reflections from this talk and the key takeaways. Right. So to start with, I would like to put two questions on the screen. Please read the questions and you can type your responses on the chat. And Udani is here to moderate the chat. So we'll see what type of responses you have for these questions, right? So let me put the two questions on the screen. I'll also read them out. So the first question is, have you observed some learners struggling to learn words? And what difficulties have you noticed them encountering? So these are the two questions. We'll take a minute to brainstorm on the chat.
So, Bimali, I can already see a lot of them saying yes. There are a few no's
Okay.
as well. And the chat is going so fast. Let me see. Yeah, most of them are saying yes. And then some of them are saying spelling issues.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Different between D and B. So sound
Okay.
discrimination, I would
Yeah.
say.
Mhm.
Remembering the meaning of words
Okay. Yeah.
and the pronunciation issues.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Okay. So we'll give 30 seconds more.
more. Yeah, we've got mirroring problems. So maybe
Uh-huh.
again the B and D and similar letters.
Yeah. Okay.
Slow
Okay.
learning, memorizing. Yeah, we have a lot of
Mhm.
answers coming in.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah. Few more seconds.
yeah, and they're not able to recognize letters.
Okay, right. So
Yeah.
thanks, Udani. That's great. So I think most of the things you mentioned are very relevant to today's talk. So you might find this our discussion useful for you. Right. So let's move on to briefly discussing features of dyslexia. As I said, this is going to be very, very brief. So later on, like I will mention some places where you can go and read about this, but let me briefly introduce this. Now, what is dyslexia? Dyslexia is categorized as a specific learning difficulty. On the screen, you can see the abbreviation SPLD. And it is believed that dyslexia occurs due to a neurobiological problem, or the origin is neurobiological. It's also believed that about 10% of the population may show dyslexia type difficulties. Now, this may vary based on regions. So region to region, the percentage may vary, but this is a kind of a global percentage, which highlights that probably about 10% of the population may show dyslexic type difficulties. So I will, in my slides, I'll also share the relevant references. If you're interested, you can read more about the content that I'm delivering today. Right. So then what are the main features of dyslexia? So first thing is difficulties in accurate and fluent word recognition. Now, I'm not going to go into details here because in the coming slides, we will discuss this a bit further. So please remember that one of the main issues is difficulties in accurate and fluent word recognition. It could be on paper, or it could be while listening. Then poor spelling is another feature. And then poor decoding. Again, I'm not going to discuss this in detail here. I'll explain this later in the coming slides. And then because of these three issues that you see on the screen, the first three, one of the secondary consequences is problems in reading comprehension. So it's obvious that if someone can't understand words or can't process words, then they definitely they are going to have problems in reading. So reading comprehension issues is considered a secondary consequence. Like I said again, so you can see the relevant sources here. So you can again go and read more about this. Let's now go into a bit of detail about these issues. So vocabulary learning difficulties that dyslexic learners encounter. Now, when it comes to vocabulary learning difficulties, we need to understand that vocabulary learning needs phonological processing. So learners with dyslexia face phonological processing difficulties. Now, I'll show you some explanations. So you can read on the screen, and also I will explain them in a bit detail. Right? So when it comes to processing words, or in terms of phonological processing, there are two processes, two things that we need to process words. One is phonemic knowledge, that is the knowledge of individual sounds. Now, learners with dyslexia face difficulties in identifying and differentiating sounds in words. So, for example, you can see the example on the screen. So, if we say cup, so there are three sounds: uk sound, sound, up sound. So, learners with dyslexia find it difficult to differentiate between these sounds, or separate these sounds, in addition to, again, combining sounds to form words. They may find it very difficult to add new sounds. Now, for example, the plural of this is cups. So we have to add another sound. So they find it difficult to do such kind of processing. So these are called issues in phonemic knowledge. Then at syllabic level, a bit higher level, now we know we have to combine syllables to make longer words. So they find it difficult to segment words into syllables, or otherwise combine syllables into combine several syllables and make words. Now there is an example again. Let's look at the word banana. So there are three syllables. So we need to combine the three syllables to make the word, but they find it a bit difficult to do that. So there are phonemic knowledge issues and syllabic knowledge issues. So in terms of what we can actually see as vocabulary learning difficulties, so I'm going to give a list, and I will show some examples as well. Of course, if you have questions, if you have clarifications, please type on the chat. So Danny is there to moderate. So I will answer the questions, or also you can ask the questions at the end. In terms of vocabulary learning difficulties, one of the problems that they face is understanding how to combine letters to form words, or how to combine sounds to form words. For example, the same example, let's say cat. Okay, so we have three sounds, a, t, right? So they find it difficult to combine these together and form a word. So that's one of the difficulties that we can see among them. Another problem is differentiating between sounds. So if you see the example here, now we have four sounds here, but they are very similar. There are slight differences, subtle differences, right? So z, sh, right? So there are very subtle differences. They find it difficult to differentiate between these sounds with subtle differences. Then converting letters to sounds. In other words, mapping spelling with pronunciation. Now, for reading, we need to identify letter sound correspondence, and learners with dyslexia find it very difficult to understand this correspondence or the rules. Again, for example, especially language like English, the pronunciation may not be very sorry, the spelling may not be very transparent. Now, if you say phone, so we can also write it, we write fur here as ph, so this might be difficult for them to process. Then processing syllables. Again, I explained earlier as well. Combining syllables together or separating syllables from a word, these are difficult. Then segmenting, isolating, blending, removing sounds from words or parts of the word. So, for example, if I ask you to separate this word elephant, I can ask you to pronounce it without the first sound. So it has to be elephant, right? So without the last sound, it's elephant. So this type of segmenting, removing is difficult for learners with dyslexia. Right, so these are the main difficulties that learners with dyslexia face in terms of vocabulary processing. Please ask questions in the chat if you have questions, and if you would like to just type them now, right? Okay. So let's look at some other difficulties as well. Again, this is very briefly, but learners who show this type of vocabulary learning difficulties can also show other difficulties that I am going to show you now. Okay, one of the difficulties is slow reading. Like I mentioned earlier, reading difficulties are a secondary consequence of dyslexia, because they find it difficult to process words. Then slow writing. Again, it's related to vocabulary processing. Also, inaccuracies in using vocabulary when it comes to writing. Then speech perception and production problems. Sometimes they might take time to understand what others mean. Also production in terms of, like, for example, if you ask a question, they might take some time to respond. So that type of problems can be there. Then usually it's believed that they have a reduced working memory abilities. Again, I'm not going to give a theoretical explanation on working memory. It's something like it has a limited capacity. It's more like a workplace in our brain. So when we hear something, when we read something, the information goes to the working memory and it gets processed in the working memory. This has a limited capacity anyway. In terms of learners with dyslexia, it is believed that they have even a reduced working memory capacity, unlike the neurotypical learners. Also, they might show poor organizational skills in terms of writing, for example, writing essays, or even speaking. If you ask them to say something, they might find it difficult to organize thoughts and ideas. They might also show time management issues. They might take more time to do activities, do their daily work. So time management issues can be there. Also, low self-esteem. So I think it's we as teachers, we can understand, right? So if a student struggles compared to other learners, that they can't read, they can't process vocabulary, then of course they will have low self-esteem, because they can't do the usual things that the other learners do. So that type of social issues can also this is not a social issue, but this can lead to social issues as well. So sometimes these learners may want to isolate themselves, or may want to work with only a few peers. So that type of social issues may also be visible. Um, right. So now again, I'm going to add two questions on the screen. Udani, I think you can moderate again. So I'll show
Sure.
the questions now.
Sure, Bimali.
Okay, first one is, have you come across learners who encounter such difficulties that I explained? If so, what have you done to help them? So let's take a minute to brainstorm.
Everyone's saying yes, plenty of times. I guided them to break the words. That's something they have
Okay.
done, to yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had one learner who had all the issues. Uh, okay. By breaking the words, a lot of them are
Mm-hmm.
saying, yeah, Suraya is saying. Um, and Pimpi Sahu is saying, trying to help through phonics. Aisha
Okay.
is saying, giving them extra time. Mm, give them one-to-one attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, many of them are saying yes, obviously. So it's something,
Yeah,
for all
that's
of
for the
us.
first
Yeah, yeah,
question. Yeah,
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 okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
Uh,
Can you see any other techniques they use?
right, doing practical activities to break down large words,
Mm-hmm.
provided additional support. Mm. Use scaffolding techniques.
Okay,
Um,
good. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Guided them with word roots to help them detect patterns through
Mm-hmm.
phonemes. Repetitive practice is also something they have tried. Audio
Yeah.
visuals. Yeah, very interesting
Okay.
strategies. Mhm.
Yeah, okay, great. That's great because we can see that you have already tried some of the strategies that I'm also going to recommend. So it's great to see that you have been able to identify such learners, and then it's very it's great to hear that you are helping them in different ways, right? So let's now move on to discussing how to teach vocabulary to learners with dyslexia. So this we have been talking about the issues that they encounter. Let's see what we can do to help them. So first of all, now, when it comes to teaching words, right? So we know as language teachers, we teach several things in terms of teaching vocabulary. If we take a word, we teach the meaning of the word, we teach pronunciation of that word, we teach spelling of that word, and then how to use the word in context or usage. We teach parts of speech, affixes, and also different uses. So sometimes a word can be used as a noun as well as a verb. So these things also we teach when it comes to teaching words. So you can see we give a lot of information to students at a time, right? So meaning, pronunciation, spelling, use, parts of speech, and all these things. So that's typically what we teach. But then in terms of dyslexic learners processing words, vocabulary, remembering all this information can be problematic, right? So we said they have a shorter working memory span, the capacity is lower, so they have other issues like processing issues, processing spelling with pronunciation. So we need to think whether we can teach all of these together with what should we do in terms of teaching vocabulary. So that's what we are going to discuss in the next couple of minutes. So how to teach vocabulary to learners with dyslexia. So again, I'll give some tips. So it's very important to show them how to put sounds and letters together and how to take them part in terms of making words. We can make them identify individual sounds and then show them how to blend them together, or showing individual letters and asking them to put them together. So that's something we need to concentrate on. Next thing is we also need to make them use their hands, eyes, ears, and voices, different senses when it comes to learning words. Also, we need to teach slowly and thoroughly, right? Sometimes in terms of, like sometimes when we have to when we have a curriculum and we know that we have to teach a lot, so sometimes we rush through things, right? But dyslexic learners actually need slow teaching and thorough teaching. Also, they need lots of practice in terms of vocabulary use, probably like in paper and also orally, production, reception, all these type of practice is needed. So then we also talk about multisensory structured language teaching. This is a teaching method proposed to teach learners with dyslexia. So it is even research shows that this type of teaching might help learners with dyslexia to process language better. So what is multisensory structured language teaching? I think from the word also you can guess multisensory. So that is the use of visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and tactile pathways simultaneously. I'll give you an example. So imagine you teach a word. So you make them listen to the word. You show a picture of the word or a realia. Uh, Probably you give them letter cards to put these together and make the words. So this time, or you can let them touch the letter patterns. So things like that are recommended, and doing this simultaneously, multisensory activities. So that's one of the recommendations. This gives them the opportunity to see, hear, and do the language simultaneously. It is believed that this actually aids memory. Now, I mentioned that they have a reduced working memory ability. So then the multisensory structured language learning can actually aid their memory. Now, it works in this way. So imagine that my oral language processing, so my listening capabilities or how I process auditory information has a problem. So then I might be able to process that word through the visual clues or kinesthetic clues. So that's kind of why it is recommended that that we give input in different modes. Okay, right. So from here onwards, I will show you some sample activities. So you might have tried all these activities, I'm pretty sure. So if you haven't tried, so you can also try them. But we'll also discuss how possible it is for you to do these types of activities. So I'm going to show one by one. And then I will also ask whether it's possible for you to try out this. You can type your answer on the chat. So some activities have an audio. So if that is not if you can't hear it, please let me know. Udani, can you also please check when I play whether you can hear
Sure,
the sound?
will do. Yes, Bimali.
Okay, right. So let's go to activity 1. So you can see that this activity, we can use letter cards like this and pictures. Okay, so the idea is that they will put the letter cards together and make words and then match these words with the pictures, relevant pictures, corresponding picture. And also they will listen to the word and then they match the words again with what they hear. So I'll play the words here. I hope that you will be able to hear.
Cap.
Udani, is it with,
Yes,
can you hear?
Bimali, I
Yeah.
could hear it. You can play it one more time. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Let me play.
Cat.
Yeah. Okay. Second word.
Map. Tap.
Okay, right. What's interesting about this is now you can see all 3 words have the same last two sounds, app, and that's in one color. and the first sound, which is different, the letters, they are in different colors. So this is what we mean by multisensory. So this gives visual clues that these three sounds are different, but the the combination of sounds in red is the same. So that's the idea here, and we use multisensory technique here. The color coding gives the visual clues, even pictures give the visual clues, kinesthetic because they put these things together to make words, and also they hear the words. So auditory clues are also given. So this is sample activity 1. Okay, right. Let me ask whether it's possible for you to design these activities, or have you tried something like this before?
Some of them are saying yes.
Mhm.
Some of them are saying no. Some of them are saying they will be trying. So
Yeah, okay.
that's great.
Yeah, okay. Right, we'll give another 10 seconds.
Not before. Some of them are saying it's new to me.
Okay.
Some of them have
Yeah, okay.
tried. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Right, let's go to the second activity now.
Tap.
Oops, sorry.
Map.
Okay, sorry. So this is activity 2. Now here the idea is that we will give this list and ask learners to underline the sound, right? So, and then they have to pronounce the word. So you can see that this sound, in terms of spelling, now first one is car. It has the sound, but the spelling is different. Pick, then we have both C and K. Chair, it doesn't have. And then keep, cheap, cake. So you can see the spelling can be very different, but pronunciation, the sound could be the same. So the idea of doing this type of an activity is to raise their awareness that uh, it's always spelling doesn't match with the sounds. So spelling can be different, sound can, I mean, especially in a language like English, it's not that transparent. So you can have alternative spelling for the same sound. So this type of activities we can try to raise their awareness of the difference between spelling and sounds. Also, it's like because they struggle to map the spelling with the sounds, I mean, practicing these type of receiving a lot of practice through these type of activities may help them to understand the spelling sound correspondence. Okay, right. Let's quickly ask whether they've tried a similar activity or not,
Let's see.
or whether they will try some of these activities, this activity.
So some of them have tried, whereas some of them have never tried this. So they are looking forward to trying it.
Okay.
Some of them have done sound clusters.
Mhm.
It's a mix of
Okay.
yes and no. So I'm
Yeah,
sure they
okay.
will
Yeah.
incorporate.
Yeah, great. Yeah, okay. Let's go to the third one then. Now, this one, I mentioned earlier that learners with dyslexia find it difficult to segment sounds, like they find it difficult to remove sounds from words because they don't identify that there are several sounds together and you can separate the sounds. So in order to practice or again raise the awareness of this, you can use an activity like this. So you can see the instructions, pronounce these words without pronouncing the final sound. So I'll play the recording. So you can also try. So let me play this.
Ba. Z. R. Bu. Su. Slee.
Yeah, Udani, could you hear
That
me?
was clear. Yes, very clear.
Okay, right. You can do this in different ways. Now, next part could be you can ask them to pronounce the same words without the first sound, right? We did last sound without the first sound, so it would be at, ip, ook. So sometimes we might also find it difficult, but then that's the idea. So again, to raise their awareness on how you can remove sounds, you can blend them together. So this activity is for that. Again, what I'm showing are some activities mainly to raise their awareness on these difficulties that they encounter and how to overcome the difficulties. Udani, I think we can go to the next one, right? So we'll finally ask whether they can do all these activities.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Ba-
Right, next one, activity 4. Again, you can see color coding here. Now, so we know that we in English, especially, there are a lot of affixes that we add to some words. So here the idea is you can use the color coding. So the root word is activate, VAT, and then we can add things to that: activation, activated, activating, activator. So all the words which come immediately after the root is in one color. So D, you can sometimes use D, right? Deactivate. So D comes at the beginning, so that's in a different color. So based on the, so another one, activators. So then after the red suffix, we add the green suffix. So depending on the position where the suffixes occur, you can you can ask them to make sounds. Again, the idea is that we are showing them that words can be like, words, we can add parts to words, and also we can separate these parts from words. So color coding shows where actually these additional things or affixes come. So that's another sample activity. Right. So the last activity that I'm going to show, I created this using word wall. So the idea here is you can use technology. Like this is like playing games. So they will hear the sound. They will also see the words. So they have to match the sound with the words. So I'll play this video.
A, O, A, E.
So I'm sure a lot of you here use technology for different purposes in the language class. So this is how we can make dyslexic learners practice sounds. You can do various things: spelling, pronunciation. So you can show, again, you can make them practice. So we said they need a lot of practice of vocabulary. So this is a sample activity. Right. So to summarize what that we need to teach, how we need to teach, we talk about synthetic and analytic instruction. So synthetic instruction, we show, we teach parts of language. We teach them separately. For example, sounds. We teach the sounds separately and then show them how to combine the sounds together to form words. So that's called synthetic instruction. Then we have analytic instruction. So there we show the whole first and then show them how to separate. In other words, we teach the word first and then show them how to separate the word into syllables or individual sounds, individual letters. So that's the idea behind these activities. Okay, so we've come to the final topic, final subtopic we are going to we are going to discuss today. So some reflections and key takeaways. Again, I would like to post a question here. I will show the question. I will give we'll give about 1 minute for you to add your responses. So this is the question. What challenges do you think you may face when teaching learners with dyslexia? So I have mentioned several things that we need to do. So can you think of the challenges that you might face?
Attention, some of them are saying focus, time.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
Yeah. So managing the rest of the class at the same
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
handling the behavior.
Mm.
A lot of them have mentioned time, like I said, and
Okay.
concentration,
Mhm.
and then time limits, phonological awareness. This could be for both, I guess,
Yeah.
teacher side and learner side.
Yeah.
Materials, and
Mhm.
someone has said, Ritika has said, negative perceptions of disabilities.
Yes. Yes. I think, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in some countries, it could be difficult.
Yeah. Spelling, concentration, and technology as well. Some of the,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And
So we,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah. Please go ahead.
sorry, and designing the tasks also takes up time, choosing the
Time.
right
Yeah.
tools. And I think you
Yeah.
have shared a lot of wonderful ones. So
Yeah. Okay, yeah, thank you very much for your responses. So yes, there can be a lot of challenges. So what I will briefly discuss now is like, I understand these challenges are there everywhere. So what we can do to overcome challenges, I'm just giving some tips. This might work with you or in your context or not, but just to try out. Right. So overcrowded classes that we in many contexts we have. So probably more pair group activities. They can play these games or do these matching activities, multisensory activities in pairs groups. Or you can use digital tools. You can send links for them to practice even in class in overcrowded classes if they have digital devices with them. So these are some possibilities. Lack of resources to prepare activities. So we always I think last year we did a workshop for teachers where we asked them to bring recycling materials and prepare all these visual aids and things like cut-ups. We all used recycling materials. So that's something that we can try out. So time pressure in preparing materials. Yes, we all are pressured. One of the things we can do is when it comes to a class, we can ask learners themselves to prepare some activities using recycled materials in class. So you can take one day, one class, and we prepare materials and we keep them with us in the class so we can try out different ones. And then students can keep on adding the materials. I think that's also a good way of practicing this. Like they have to cut letters, cut words, words into syllables and these things. So that's one of the things we can try out. Less flexible curriculum that can be problematic. Like I mentioned, we have to teach the curriculum, so people might feel that okay, we don't have time to do all these other things. So a lot of self-learning activities can be prepared, so learners can try them out. We can have a system where they can borrow some of these activities and then take them home and practice. So this type of strategies can be used. I think lack of knowledge, expertise on how to design activities. So there are a lot of free open access resources available. So from these places, you can get some more ideas. Right. So the key takeaways in today's talk. So if you feel that there are learners who struggle, and if you have identified that there are learners with dyslexia in your context, so use multiple channels to introduce and practice words: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and tactile. Or in other words, multisensory language teaching. So show how to combine sounds and break them apart. Give a lot of activities like this so you can raise their awareness. When it comes to teaching words, a small number of words at a time and a lot of practice, and slow pace of teaching. So we need to teach them slowly and thoroughly. And also explicit teaching, giving them information like what the parts of speech, so how the word is formed using different sounds, so that some explicit teaching might help learners with dyslexia. So I think we have come to the end of my talk, and we will have a Q&A session. But before that, okay, sorry, I forgot the last thing, easy to difficult. When we teach vocabulary, the easy words first and the difficult words. So those are the key takeaways for you from today's talk. What I will show now are some of the resources. So mainly like my reference list. So you can go through some of these and get to know more about dyslexia and the vocabulary learning difficulties learners with dyslexia face, and the teaching tips. So these are some, and some more here, some of the resources that you can refer to. Okay, Udani.
Yes. Thank you so much, Bimali. I mean, it was so informative, I think, for everyone, and everyone is really complimenting you for all the strategies you have shared. And I feel like for the last activity that you showed, everyone is pretty excited to, try that out. All right.
Yeah,
So
that's
thank
great.
you so
Yeah.
much for that. Yeah. And we'll move on to the Q&A now, like you said. If you haven't already, please do drop any questions you may have on the Q&A box, and we'll answer as many as we can. All right. I'll start with one question where you shared a lot of interesting activities. If a teacher is trying to support learners with dyslexia for the first time, or they're at the start of this, which one would you recommend, or any strategy or tool you would recommend?
I think it's very difficult to say that a particular strategy would work at the beginning, because also we have to understand it's not that all the dyslexic learners show the same difficulties. So they might show different difficulties, and the severity also changes. Some can have severe issues, some can have mild issues. So it's very difficult to say, okay, this activity might work with all the dyslexic learners all the time, right? So it depends on, because we also recommend individualized instruction, or in other words, like, understanding individual strengths and weaknesses. So depending on that, you need to vary what you are trying out.
All right, perfect. Thank you for that. And we talked about, even in the chat, or the audience was saying about how it might take longer to create this type of material, and you also gave some ideas for for those challenges. But would it be fun for other students too? Is it something that everyone can get involved in?
Exactly, because we are talking about inclusive education, right? Inclusive language teaching. So these activities are good for other learners as well. They might enjoy them anyway, right? So,
Yeah.
so what we recommend is like, okay, do these activities with everyone, not just with learners with dyslexia. So the others will also benefit. The learners who have dyslexia will benefit from these additional help that they get from, like, visual clues, auditory clues, and all this. At the same time, for other learners also, these are very good activities. So we can use the same activities in class. And also in terms of, I think I said, like, we can make learners prepare these activities. It's a very good way and fun way to make resources, because
For
then the
sure.
other learners can also get involved, not just the dyslexic learners.
Yeah, for sure. And talking in general, from your experience, personal or from the teachers you have trained, what do teachers commonly, when they start supporting learners with learning disabilities or like a large classroom, what mistakes do they commonly make and how can they avoid them? Anything?
I think so I wouldn't say mistakes. My experience of
Mhm.
working with teachers from I think we've run teacher training in more than 14 countries, I guess, or around 14 countries. So one of the things that I felt was like, teachers haven't received any training on these aspects like dyslexia or how to teach learners with dyslexia. So that's
Mm,
something
mm,
missing in several contexts, many contexts. So we can't say like no, go and do this or go and do that, right? So I think first thing we need to do is like we need to learn what this is. We need to have some awareness. Also, we should not, I mean, yes, I showed some features of dyslexia. That doesn't mean that we can go and observe a
mm,
learner and
mm,
immediately
mm.
say that they are dyslexic, right? So there can be other issues as well, and they might have other problems, so they might not be able to process information. So it has to be like you have to take it carefully. So first thing is like as teachers, what if I teach, I would get to know about this a bit more, um, read a bit more about this, and then slowly observe whether learners show such difficulties, then probably
Mhm.
talk to an expert and ask whether these features could be related to dyslexia. So I'm pretty sure in any all the countries, there are some, at least some dyslexic assessors. So probably, and also if you feel that okay, a learner is struggling, I think it's not good to like go and tell the learners. I mean, we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't tell the
Mm.
learners, okay, probably you have this or something. I think probably we need to talk to parents and say, okay, it seems your
Yeah.
child is struggling, so why don't you go and talk to an expert. That, I think that type of approach is what we need.
All right. Thank you for that, Bimali. And I think they also asked about, how can we get parents involved or how
Mm,
can we break that news to the parents in a more
mm,
sensitive
yeah,
way as well. Any tips on that?
yeah. Uh, yeah, I think so. If you in some countries, dyslexia is so they call it like not specific learning difficulties, but specific learning differences. So that's how you can put it, right? So they have a different way of learning to neurotypical students,
Mm,
neurotypical
100%.
learners. So in that way, so you can say, okay, now it seems like this child is learning in a different way. Also, I think we need to, very very important, we need to remember that dyslexic learners have a lot of strengths as well. They can be very creative, right? So they can have original ideas. They are good at holistic thinking and all this. So they can be very very talented, right? So that's something that we can encourage them to show the talents, and in that way like we can make them more comfortable with us, increase their self confidence, self-esteem, and then we can come to teaching part, right? So then I think probably not calling it, so we don't recognize it as a disease, right? So it's not a disease. uh, the easiest way to put it is like it's another way of learning. They learn in a different way, so they need different techniques to learn. So I think in that way probably we can, our approach would be kind of a bit easier.
Thank you. And I'll ask a few more questions from you. A lot of our audience asked about secondary and adult learners. Can they use
Mhm.
these activity issues shared with them as well, or is there do they have to adapt it, and how, if so?
Yeah, with adult learners, of course you can. depending on, again, like, what type of, so you need to recognize first the problems that they encounter, right? So can't they identify letters, or can't they identify sounds? Can't they blend sounds together? What are the, like I said, not that all learners with dyslexia show the same problems, right? So first thing is identification, what they are lacking, what they can't do. And then, of course, these type of activities you can use with adult learners. You can do slight adaptations. But anyway, now we teach English, like if we take English, we teach English to adults, right? So again, we can use this type of activities if there are learners with dyslexia, and also with other learners also we can sometimes use.
Thank you so much, brother. I'll get one more question. How can we increase the confidence in these learners? Are there any, strategies for that?
Mm. Yeah, I think one thing, like I mentioned earlier, so they are good at many things. So we need to encourage them, or we need to give opportunities to show what they are good at. So I think that's kind of a starting point. So then they build up confidence that they can do something, right? So because if they can't learn the same way that the other learners learn in class, they get disheartened. But if we can show them, okay, you are very good at singing, you are very good at dancing, or you are very good at arts, so give them opportunities to display their work, and all this from that we can start building up their confidence, and then slowly start teaching the language, considering the issues that they have. So the starting point is explore their strengths and give opportunities to showcase their strengths first.
100%. All right. And I'll ask one last question from you before we move on to the next part. If, let's say, with teachers who have a syllabus to cover, and, we did talk about time and all that,
Yeah.
how can they make sure a learner who needs extra support or who has different ways of learning, how can they, match up to that curriculum? How, any advice on that, or any way we can think about
I
it?
Yeah, I think so we need to think about two aspects here. One is like informally, the other one is formally, right? So so sometimes we have, like, all the schools in the country, we follow the same curriculum, we have the same exams and things like that. So then so formal diagnosis is important, because learners with dyslexia should get more time in exams, even in class activities they need more time. So that's the formal part of that, right? So informal, especially formal assessments. Informally in class, so there are certain things that you can do. You can reduce the level of expectation. Now, for example, let's imagine that there is a reading text which is very long, right? So the 2-page reading article, and we know that they anyway struggle. So what you can do is like separate it into several chunks, sections, and then for each section we can design a small activity, some questions, or filling a table by looking at that paragraph. So we are not expecting them to read the 2-page article in one go. So that's one of the things that we can do, and also giving extra time. So maybe so if you expect the other learners to read 3 paragraphs in, like, let's say 15 minutes, you can ask these learners to probably read just 1 paragraph and process it, right? So if they do it, like, a lot of praise, and also you can increase the expectations, but I think lowering the expectation is informally what we can do.
Thank you so much, Bimali. So thank you once again for that wonderful session. Everybody is really, happy about the strategies you gave. And I want to remind everyone again, a handout of the main points of this session will be available by 24th of July on our website, and we'll be sharing the link in a bit. Right. So I want
Thank you
to
very much,
thank,
everyone.
yeah. Thanks, Bimali. And I want to thank everyone who joined us today as well. They made this session really interactive, answering all the questions. Now I'll move on to sharing the feedback link. Let me share my screen. All right. I hope you can see the feedback link, and this will be put on the chat as well. So once you fill it out, you will get a link to download your certificate. Like I mentioned, a PDF handout of this webinar will be available on 24th of July on our global webpage. Up next, we have another exciting session. It's going to be in 30 minutes, and it's all about visual thinking tips, tools, and techniques for the inclusive classroom, and it's by Emily Bryson. So we are in the same theme as inclusive practices. Please use the same Zoom link in the confirmation email you received at the time of registration to attend the next webinar. And we'll be also sharing the webinar schedule, so you can check the sessions and timings from there as well. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
I've stopped.